keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. We're going to go upon further review 49ers versus Seahawks and exactly what I saw when I looked at the film. And of course, I'm doing my film breakdowns over on Patreon, and part one is available if you want to go check that out. But what I like to do is go through and watch the game and get some coaches' notes, things that I would normally do when I coach and evaluate the game. And that's what I do every weekend upon further review is just what you see. Because sometimes what you see live, what you see on the TV TV copy is a little bit different than what you see when you break down the film overall. You could find little things here and there, some things you really like, some things maybe you didn't like as much. But these are the things that you do on Tell the Truth Monday when you're breaking down the film, and players evaluate themselves and coaches evaluate themselves and the players, and everybody comes to a consensus on what needs to be worked on. You got to focus on the things you need to get better at, all the while game planning to prepare for the New Orleans Saints. And we're going to be turning our attention to the New Orleans Saints very soon. But the San Francisco 49ers also had to make some hard decisions, and they've done that. Jake Moody has now been waived by the San Francisco 49ers. They officially move on from the number 99 overall pick of just a couple years ago. It just didn't work out. Jake Moody just couldn't be effective. He couldn't make the kicks when the 49ers needed him to, but it was more than that. He also was struggling with placement on the kickoffs, getting that ball within that 5-yard area of the goal line. And today's NFL and that dynamic kickoff, it's hyper important to get the ball placement correctly. The first time he kicked it into the end zone to open the game and a touchback, and that allows Seattle to start on the 35. Their first play of the game, they hit Jackson Smith and Jigba over the middle of the field, and already they're across midfield. Now, luckily, the 49ers got off the field without allowing any points, but that's the type of thing that hurts with field position this season. His second kickoff, after the Niners go 95 yards for a touchdown pass to George Kittle, he kicks it this time, and it lands about the 9-yard line, which allows the return to get out past the 30. Luke Gifford made a great tackle on the play, but these are the types of erratic behavior when it comes to the kicking that just made it really tough for the 49ers to find the value in Jake Moody. And I'm sure it was extremely hard. They thought that he was going to be the kicker of the future, the rookie that was going to come in from Michigan, and he was an all-world kicker, and he was going to be that guy. Unfortunately, he is not. And they're going to be moving in a different direction, and we'll wait and see what that ends up being. As of right now, I do not know what that is as I'm recording this. But it's something that's definitely got to happen. It could be Greg Joseph, and maybe it's him in the short term and then something else in the long term. But the 49ers had to move on from Jake Moody. You just can't run the risk of not getting the makeable field goals. Under 30 yards and you're hitting the crossbar or hitting the goalpost and missing, that just can't happen. The placement on the kickoffs, it needs to be better than that. And so they are moving on. And I don't want to bury Jake Moody. I just, hope that eventually he finds his way and he's able to kick good somewhere else. But it's not going to be in San Francisco. 49ers had to move in a positive direction, a different direction. And I think that's ultimately what they're going to do now. So Moody gone. Another bit of information is George Kittle is going to be on the 49ers injured reserve list. So the 3 to 5 week injury for the hamstring ends up causing him to go on IR. So that is going to be something that happens. 49ers have freed up 2 roster spots effectively by moving on from Jake Moody. We know they're going to have to fill that one. And then George Kittle, as far as going on the IR. Now, what does that mean for the 49ers as far as replacements? Well, early on, it means that Luke Farrell is going to be your starting tight end, and that Jake Tunges is going to be expected to go out there when you're in 12 personnel and go out there and make some plays for this football team. And I'm sure there'll be some times where these guys are more interchangeable, where you'll see Jake Tunges out there because he's more of a receiving threat than Farrell. It's not that Farrell can't do it. It's just Jake Tunges is a little bit better. He's a little bit more athletic, has a little bit more shake. You could see it on film. And I think that that's necessary that the 49ers have a guy who can, put some pressure on a team to catch the ball from the tight end position. So this one is going to hurt. The George Kittle injury affects the offense. Just going into the film early, you could see the attention that George Kittle was getting was opening things up for guys like Ricky Pearsall, and Christian McCaffrey, and the effect that McCaffrey and George Kittle have on the offense and how they can occupy defenders' attention to allow other guys to make plays. You just see it. It's just something they do. So this is going to be a big one. George Kittle was very effective on that opening drive against Seattle, and now they're going to have to play the next 4 games without him. It's likely he'll be back week 6 against Jacksonville, but that means he's going to miss 2 divisional games against the Cardinals in a couple weeks, and then week 5 against the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. So some big losses for the 49ers. Now, how do they go about replacing George Kittle? Well, we'll have to find out. It could be as simple as they just go with Braden Willis and bring Braden Willis, up as an elevated player, and that's the third tight end, and they roll with the other 2 guys. This might be what they do this week as they evaluate the position. They could always reach out to an old friend and Ross Dwelley, who was with the 49ers during training camp, and bring him in either on the practice squad or the active roster to fill George Kittle's position. Or they could look around the league and try to find somebody that's on another practice squad, maybe a guy like Robert Tonyan or someone like that, and try to bring them in. Tonyan, it would be an easy adjustment as he had played for Matt LaFleur in Green Bay and understands a lot of this offensive scheme. So it's going to be an interesting thing. I think the most likely outcome from the information that I have right now is that the 49ers are going to elevate Braden Willis for the game against New Orleans. They're going to use that roster spot by George Kittle going on IR to account for Kendrick Bourne, and then they're going to sign a new kicker, and I think it's most likely it'll be Greg Joseph, who is a guy that Brant Boyer knows and who has kicked with the 49ers during training camp. And so I think that that's what happens when we talk about moving forward with George Kittle, his IR stint, and with Jake Moody now out the door in San Francisco, and the 49ers turning the page and going to a new kicking unit, which means Brant Boyer has officially completely changed the entire battery when it comes to field goals. John Weeks took over as long snapper. Morstead took over as the punter and holder, and now they're going to have a new kicker taking over for Jake Moody. So everybody being replaced, 49ers being as proactive as could be. I understood them trying to see what would happen with Jake Moody, but this is a necessary move that needed to be made. Kyle Shanahan can't go into football games and not have a kicker that can make things happen when you get into field goal range. You have to be able to make field goals, and that's one of the keys that needs to happen. So we'll see. We'll see what's going down with Jake Moody's replacement with George Kittle and how this thing plays out. But let's go ahead and let's get into all the upon further review, the things, the coach's notes I found when watching the film. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating if you feel that I deserve it. And of course, if you were going to bet with FanDuel. And as of right now, the San Francisco 49ers are favored to win the game at -4.5. So 4.5 point favorites against the New Orleans Saints. We have seen the over-under move a little bit. Yesterday, it was at 40.5. Now it's 42.5. And so they're expecting a little bit more points in this game. Last week, pretty much the under dominated. Only 2 games went over. So if you want to bet with FanDuel. But let's get into these notes. I'm really excited to talk about it. I want to start with Robert Saleh because there is a definite difference in what we saw game plan-wise last week than what we saw the entirety of 2024. First off, the very first third down that the 49ers defense faced, they did something that Nick Sorensen did. They went to man coverage. However, Robert Saleh put together a look as far as the defensive line, which I'll talk about, and the blitz look that made the quarterback, Sam Darnold, have to get rid of the football quickly. So this is what he did. First off, he goes to man coverage. They know it's man coverage. They show a blitz with Fred Warner and with D. Winters. Winters coming from the outside. He has the NASCAR package that I had been pining for. Once they brought in Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff on the outside with Nick Bosa, the two interior guys, Mickael Williams and Yetur Gross-Matos. And they bring in that group and they bring 6. And when they did that, they locked everybody up. Everybody manned up across the board. The ball ends up coming out to the tight end, who Fui Seagull is in the hip pocket of. Ball gets there, contact there at the same time. Not just that, they ran a loop stunt, and Yetur Gross-Matos and Mickael Williams, and people are going to say negative things about Yetur Gross-Matos and Mickael Williams, but this is a time that this play especially, stats don't add up to what happens. Sometimes this is called complementary football for your defensive line. It's not all about you getting yours. Sometimes it's about opening it up for other people, and then eventually you'll get yours. And that's exactly what happened. Mickael Williams took his guy where he needed to take him. Yetur Gross-Matos muscled his guy where he was supposed to get him. And Nick Bosa looped in and made contact with Sam Darnold. And Darnold barely got the ball off. The ball ends up bouncing off Abe Lucas's head. And the tight end makes the catch, and Seagull tackles him right there in front of the sticks. That's the first third down the 49ers face of the season. What a far cry from what it was last year, where Nick Sorensen would put the 49ers in man coverage and bring no one and just rush 4. And the 49ers would get beat for a first down. And that's why third downs were so tough last year with Nick Sorensen. You just see the step up, the understanding of the personnel you have, and then knowing that you got to get the quarterback to get rid of the football quickly because you're in man coverage. That protects your defensive secondary. It's complementary football. The front end protected the back end, and the back end was right where they needed to be. It was phenomenal. That was what you saw all game long from Robert Saleh, was him understanding how to do things quickly. And you got to give Cutback credit. The first play of the game, he did a great job of taking advantage of what the 49ers were showing. 49ers came out with a 5-man front, putting Luke Gifford up front. And this is what I had talked about leading up to the game, is the fact that the Seahawks might try to throw on early downs, knowing the 49ers blueprint was going to be stop the run and earn the right to rush on third. Exactly what they did. But Kubiak was ready for it. He motions Kenneth Walker out. He gets D. Winters to have to go out further. Fred Warner to move horizontally to the other side of the ball. And then when Jackson Smith-Njigba comes over the middle, there's nobody. The void in the middle is wide open. You created a hole with your horizontal movement, including motion and shifts and formation. That's a Kyle Shanahan staple, and that's what Kubiak did. But what we saw Robert Saleh continue to adjust, to figure out what was going to happen, and then go get it done. And so he shored up a lot of the mistakes that they were having, as far as they held the Seahawks to 88 yards on the ground. They held them to just 150 yards through the air. It was a phenomenal performance, and it comes down to Robert Saleh putting his players in the best situations to be successful, calling the right calls at the right times. Is it perfect? No. And that's the good news. It wasn't perfect. If it would have been a perfect game plan, it would have been even worse. But the fact that it wasn't perfect and it was still as good as it was is very important. But I want to get into some of these players. I just wanted to highlight just a little bit of Robert Saleh difference, and there's a lot of it in this game, but that's just a little bit, a little taste. Now, Trent Williams, this came up in the post-game show. Everyone asking me in the reaction show about Trent Williams, and I will say, watching Trent Williams, especially early in this game, it was a little bit difficult. This is not the Trent Williams I have grown accustomed to seeing since he came into the NFL, whether that was with Washington or when he came over to the 49ers. I did, however, see that as this game progressed, I felt like Trent Williams got a little bit better. I also believe that early in this game that they were kind of getting Trent Williams a little bit caught off guard with how they were rushing him and attacking him. And I thought that some of the run scheme for the 49ers that they came up with was a little bit ineffective with what they were asking some of their guys to do. They changed it up in the second half and became more effective and kind of wore down the Seattle Seahawks defensive line. But I thought that Trent was struggling with inside moves, and I thought Boye Mafe did a pretty good job with that. Same with DeMarcus Lawrence. I thought he did a good job as well. And let's not forget, DeMarcus Lawrence is not a bad player. This is a very effective player who has been a multiple-time Pro Bowler when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. So this wasn't an easy pull week one for Trent Williams, who hasn't played against anybody, it was tough. Now, Trent did get a little bit better, but I would say that he's got a lot of work to do. And I think he will tell you that he's got a lot of work to do. It wasn't his best performance, but he's going to be okay. I think that Trent Williams is still showing the necessary speed, athleticism, strength. A couple of times he didn't have the anchor that we've seen in the past, but I think all of that's going to come with a little bit more time and some more reps. I think he looks rusty. But with that, I think that was part of the reason the 49ers struggled a little bit early. Is normally you could count on Trent Williams in one-on-one situations to just win, and then you could kind of use everybody else, effectively with doubles and whatever you have to do. And that wasn't really working in this game early on. But Trent Williams is going to be okay. I just think it wasn't his best game. PFF says it's his worst game since 2023, a Week 6 matchup versus the Arizona Cardinals. You don't expect Trent Williams to, kind of be in that 55-point range for PFF. And so that was a little bit tough. And he struggled early, and I think it affected the passing game and the running game alike. That was frustrating. And the run blocking was a problem early in this game. And I think some of it had to do with the personnel and how they were being utilized. I'll give you a couple examples. There's one play where you have Leonard Williams lined up in the zero technique, head up on Jake Brendel, and they're going to run a little bit of a toss play. They're going to try to get Christian McCaffrey just outside to the tackle. And they're expecting Ben Barch to be able to replace Jake Brendel, come down and make that play on Leonard Williams. And then Jake Brendel is going to push up to linebacker. Ben Barch did not even come close to making that play. And some of that is personnel. I mean, Leonard Williams is big physical, but he's also fast and athletic. And that block is extremely difficult to make. Yes, Ben Barch is hyper athletic, talented enough to make that play, but that was really tough, and he couldn't. Now, what's funny is Brendel almost falls on the play, does in fact, though, get to his linebacker. I thought Jake Brendel actually had a pretty successful game, and I thought that he did a good job. He didn't even allow a hurry in this game. I thought offensively he did pretty, as far as offensive pass protection, he did pretty good. I thought he called a pretty good game as far as moving the guys around schematically. I thought that, Jake Brendel was effective in this game, and, definitely wasn't the worry of the offensive line. But on this run play, you also had Dominic Puni struggle a little bit with his block, and Colt McKivitz. McKivitz got off to a slow start. He picked it up as well. I think Dominic Puni might be still not 100% from that knee, the way that he was moving laterally. So I think that he's still trying to work back. So that's something to remember as well. But they also had another one. McCaffrey didn't have a lot of space, but they had another play where they had pulled Barch to the left. He's playing left guard, pulled him to the left. They expect DeMarcus Lawrence to be there for him to be able to trap him. DeMarcus Lawrence just went right inside. Ben Barch never had a chance. He came inside and made the play on Christian McCaffrey. So, like I said, some of it was scheme. Some of it was personnel. And another time we had, too much push against Barch and against Trent Williams, and Brian Robinson's feet got tripped up on Trent Williams on what would have been a counter play that would have got some positive yards. So it was just kind of a struggle, and we expected it to be difficult, especially for the 49ers interior offensive line. I just didn't expect it to be so difficult in this game for Trent Williams. I thought that he was going to be able to handle DeMarcus Lawrence and Boye Mafe. I thought those were good matchups. He struggled a little bit. So that's something we're going to have to monitor, see how he does next week. Some more tough guys coming up against the Saints. And then for Colt McKivitz, I thought that once he kind of got fooled a little bit about some of those inside moves, they were jumping inside on our tackles. And I think our tackles expected him to stay outside. And so that really was a big part of it. So that was a run blocking issue earlier. Now, Mickael Williams, they moved him inside. He played inside a lot. He played some 4-eye. They also rushed him from the inside, which I thought was hyper effective in the 49ers NASCAR package. So that was really good. There's some people that are kind of wanting to pile on him. Mickael Williams say he didn't have a good game. But like I said, there's more to playing defensive line than just stats, than just making tackles. There were some plays where he got into the right play. I'll give you an example. I talked about the Bosa sack earlier. Or not sack, near sack, that forced a fourth down. But here's another example. Mickael Williams is playing inside. He's playing a 4-eye, and they decided to run a sweep. And Luke Gifford had come walked up on the ball. He has outside contain. He gets the wrong arm free on the play. He's supposed to have his outside arm free, which is his left arm. He has his right arm free on the inside. Now, he's trying to ride it out. He gets hooked. But Kenneth Walker, because of how vertical he was, wanted to cut up, but he couldn't because Mickael Williams played it perfectly and got outside of Abe Lucas, the tackle. He started inside of Abe Lucas, saw the play, got there, got his outside arm free, and forced Kenneth Walker to stretch this one more horizontal towards the sideline. If Luke Gifford would have played it right, it would have been a negative play. They would have lost at least 2 yards. Now, in the play, they ended up getting a couple yards. Lenore came up, made the tackle. But he was in the right place at the right time. Those are the types of things that don't show up on the stat sheet that Mickael Williams is doing. He's making those kinds of plays, getting in the right spots, filling his gaps, playing athletically. The stats are going to come. The big plays are going to come. But being in the right place at the right time is very important. And I thought Mickael Williams was more times than he wasn't. There will be times when he finishes plays. It just wasn't made for this game. But I was very impressed with what I saw. And let's not forget, Mickael Williams basically played against the Denver Broncos in joint practices for about a half hour. That was all the work he got against an opposing NFL offense. No different than Upton Stout, right? Upton Stout didn't get any of those time either. These guys were taking live bullets for the first time against NFL players that aren't their teammates. I thought he held up really nice in those situations. So I don't understand any of the hatred coming towards Mickael Williams. I think Mickael Williams is doing a pretty good job. So I was a fan of it. Now, Alfred Collins, the second-round pick, he struggled a little bit. I did think it was interesting. I'm sure most of you have seen by now, him ended up getting speared, looking like Braun Breaker was hitting him or Bill Goldberg lighting him up on the pull. So it was a trap play. And so what they want to do is allow him to come upfield, and then they want to kick him with a pulling guard. And on the play, I think it was Gray Zabel, pulled and absolutely speared him and just lit him up, put him on the ground. But the reason that happened is Alfred Collins went to hit Abe Lucas and was expecting for Abe Lucas to engage him. Abe Lucas did not because he's going upfield for the trap. And this is something I saw Alfred Collins struggle with at training camp, and I talked about it a little bit. So what is Alfred Collins supposed to do? When you get let through that quickly, you're supposed to know it's probably trap, and you have to have your vision look for the guard coming or tight end coming back to block you. You have to go towards them, take it on, and try to squeeze that play down. But because he came up and he didn't have his body weight underneath him, and he was expecting Abe Lucas to strike him, he went down to his knees and eventually got laid out. So we saw that. I saw another time on the goal line where he got double teamed and pushed into the end zone. It was the first Seahawks touchdown. So I thought that there were some things that Alfred Collins is still struggling with. I think elevating his pad level is still a problem. Recognizing different things in scheme, whether that's traps, or just some of the things like that, has been a little bit of a problem for him. And so he's going to definitely have some growing pains. What we're hoping is by the time he gets to week 5, week 6, he's used to seeing those things and plays it a little bit different. So it wasn't a great performance from Alfred Collins. I thought that CJ West played a little bit better in this game than Alfred Collins. He's got a ways to go. But I'm not giving up on him yet because there are other plays in the red zone where he ate up blockers, got low, and did a good job. So got to give him credit for the good plays, but also realize there's a lot of work to do. Let's go fire out against the bag low. Let's work on recognizing what's coming at you with the offensive scheme. Hey, I'm coming through. It's real early. Let me look for the puller. Oh, there's no puller. It must be a screen. Or there is a puller. Let me take him on and blow him up so that way I don't get kicked and don't create a hole. Through time, it's experience. He's going to get there. I really do believe that. D. Winters was phenomenal. I had to bring it up again. He looked so good. That stop he made in the red zone where he came downhill. It started by Jordan Elliott. I got to give Jordan Elliott some credit. He makes a wicked move to get inside, and he gets that offensive lineman, Gray Zabel, going for him. And when he does, there's no one there for D. Winters. D. Winters comes through, and if he's not there, it's a touchdown. But D. Winters fills the hole, lights it up, and it's a great play. He was great in coverage, just on point the whole time. I was very, very big fan of what D. Winters was able to do in this game, and I had to give him a little bit of credit. Upton Stout is playing with dirty eyes, and when I was breaking down, the big play that Upton Stout gave up to Jackson Smith and Jigba on the out and up, he has to look in the backfield. He was looking back there, and he was, saw the play action pass. It looks like he recognized that it was a pass, But then when Jackson Smith-Njigba came up and was effectively acting like he was blocking him, he got kind of flat-footed. And when he did, Jackson Smith-Njigba disengaged. Upton Stout peeked into the backfield again to see what was going on. By the time he saw that Sam Darnold was going to throw the ball and started to run after Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Jigba was no longer even running the out. He was on his way up, and that's really what got Upton Stout. So dirty eyes there. We've seen some dirty eyes also in the Cooper Kupp play. I thought he was standing flat-footed. There was really no reason for him to play inside leverage on that play where he got the pass interference because he had inside help with Jason Pinnock, a safety. He could have played outside leverage and not allowed Cooper Kupp, to get to the outside at all. So that is a little bit of an adjustment he's going to have to make. You also don't want to be flat-footed. You want to be moving. Even if you're just chopping those feet, you want to be moving. And I thought that there was a couple of things like that where you saw Upton Stout struggle a little bit. I think it's to be expected. I thought that there was some good moments too, him filling in run support. I thought he did a pretty good job in run fits. And so it's definitely you're living to learn with some of these young guys. Alfred Collins, Mickael Williams, same with Upton Stout. So I thought that Stout had dirty eyes early. I think that he's not always in the correct position. Those are things they got to work on. But there's enough athleticism, enough grit that you kind of like, some of what you see from him. Now, the other rookie, Fui Seagull, I think he exceeded expectations. He honestly does do what they say he does. He makes a mistake and he fixes it. I had question marks after the third preseason game about Fui Seagull in coverage and some of the things that he was struggling with. He fixed those problems. Fui Seagull had a really good game. Am I going to sit here and tell you that it was a perfect game? I'm not, but the guy just fixes the mistakes that he makes, and if that's the case, every week he's just going to get better and better and better. And the way that he was flying up and making tackles, there's a couple times in run support where if he doesn't make the play, it's a huge explosive play. Last year we saw it happen all the time because it was Jair Brown's job to step up and make those tackles. And, against Buffalo, he gave up like an 80-yard touchdown run because he missed the tackle. Those are the types of plays Fui Seagull's making in his first game ever in the NFL against a Seattle Seahawks team that wanted to run the ball effectively, who have two really good running backs. One of them, Kenneth Walker, who's tough to go down, athletic. I mean, I thought that Fui Seagull did great. I think sky's the limit for him. I really do. I mean, I know it's one game, and I don't want to get too far over my skis on this, but I really do think that he's an ascending player, and he's going to be a real problem in the NFL for a long time. The 49ers, I think, got another fifth-round gem, and once him and Malik Mustafa get together, this might be the best tandem, in the NFC West pretty soon. Guys like Budda Baker and those guys are kind of fizzling out, and I just think Seagull and Malik Mustafa are going to complement each other well. And Robert Saleh, he knows how to use his guys, so I'm very excited about him. Demo was great in coverage, so I thought that watching Demo on film, just because you're not targeted doesn't mean you're great in coverage. I thought he was. There wasn't very many opportunities to even go his direction, and so he was right on guys. He was staying in their hip pocket. He played well. My only thing with Demo is I think he got a little bit too over the top with the antics, the pushing Jackson Smith-Njigba over the pile. I didn't like that. Taking the helmet off on the field. There's no place for that. You don't want those penalties in a game. Like, be physical, right? Play till the whistle. That's all well and good. I love all that. I don't mind any trash talk, whatever. But when you start costing your team 15-yard penalties, that's when it gets frustrating. And that's no different than, other guys who have done it in the past. So that's some of the thing. Clean up the antics. But the number one cornerback thing, he's living up to that. I thought he looked really good. His counterpart, Ronaldo Green, had a really great game. A couple times in run fits, just phenomenal. Oh my gosh. There's one play. The hole is the size of a Mack truck could have went through it. And he comes and he fills the hole that he's supposed to be in. And he makes a tackle, and it could have went for a big play, but he did such a good job. Really, the one time he got beat was by the stop and go from Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's the one thing that really got him. Other than that, I thought he was really clean in this game. He's definitely a upgrade at cornerback number 2. 49ers got a couple really good ones right now, and I think that he's just going to get better. And the thing is, he's not going to let these things happen to him all the time. Did a really good job. Brock Purdy wasn't in midseason form. I thought that there was a couple of times he missed a couple throws here and there. Sometimes he did some things he wouldn't normally do, but I thought that he made plays when he needed to. So was it a perfect game, clean game from Brock Purdy? No. He had the 2 interceptions. I think that the first one wasn't that bad. I thought the situation kind of caused it to happen. It was a great play by Ernest Jones. The second one, that was bad, but I don't think Brock Purdy saw the underneath defender. And you're going to make mistakes like that. When you're trying to make things happen, you're a gunslinger, you're going to make mistakes. I thought that there was some really great reads from him. I thought he made some good decisions. He extended plays when he needed to extend plays. He gave his players opportunities to make plays. So overall, I thought that he did a really good job. I just thought there was a couple of times where he was a little ineffective, and he's not in midseason form. There was a lot of rust being worked out by some of these 49ers players, O-linemen, D-linemen, quarterback, wide receivers. You kind of expect more sloppy play in the NFL in the first couple of weeks because of the way preseason handled. Less players play in preseason than ever before. So you just can't hone your craft. You get better at football by playing football. And the games are just a little bit of a different animal than what goes on at practice. But overall, I thought Purdy had a pretty good game, minus a couple of things here and there. And then the last thing I want to talk about is Brian Robinson. I don't think he's quite comfortable with the scheme because I thought his vision was lacking a little bit in some situations. Example, he had a toss play to the outside. He's got Trent Williams leading the way. If he goes inside on Trent Williams' hip pocket, when Trent Williams makes a block, he's got an extra 8 to 10 yards at least. Instead, he carries it too far to the sideline and ends up only getting a net positive of like 7 or 8 yards, which is still a great carry, but there was a lot more meat on the bone there. And I thought I seen it a couple of other times where he wasn't really trusting. I think the landmarks are a little bit different within this scheme, and so it's making things a little bit different for him. But as he progresses, I think that he'll be very beneficial. He had the one run where he got hit at the line of scrimmage, powered forward, ended up getting 4 or 5 yards, the breaking of tackles, the falling forward. Those things are all very good for Brian Robinson. So I thought that there was some positives there. I just think that there's some things he still needs to work on and get done. But overall, I thought the film showed up great for the defense. I thought the defense did good. I thought the offense showed some moments where they were highly effective. They've got work to do, of course, but when you have mash units at wide receiver, it makes it difficult. And now you're going to be without George Kittle. The good news is guys like Christian McCaffrey, they're still going to be there to make plays. So it's a lot of fun. I really appreciate everyone coming through and watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.